Hello, I'm Zeke, and welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania. I have the supreme honor of having three guests on my show today, all of whom play a pivotal role in the Pennsylvania judiciary. With over 50 years of combined legal experience amongst them, their retention on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court will set the Commonwealth's, and dare I say the country's trajectory for the next decade. Thank you so much for being here, Justice Christine Donohue, Justice Kevin Dougherty, and Justice David Wecht.
I'm Zeke, a doctor, a Pennsylvanian, and an unapologetic supporter of democratic values. You might have seen me on social media working my ass off for Democrats and meeting some pretty amazing people along the way, like President Barack Obama and Governor Josh Shapiro. For years, I've knocked thousands of doors all over Pennsylvania and poured my heart and soul into supporting candidates and causes that make a difference, from local school board races to national elections. The personal is political, and I take every election in Pennsylvania personally. Where the mainstream media has failed you, I will give you truth and independence. You'll hear from Democratic leaders, candidates, and changemakers who are working to improve the health of the Commonwealth, and it won't be boring as hell. No matter where you are, I'll meet you with hope and a plan to make your community better one day at a time. Welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I have to say, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever be interviewing one, let alone three state Supreme Court justices in my lifetime. So thank you so much for giving me this honor.
Honor is ours.
It's wonderful. Well, you are all up for retention this November 4th. And for those who don't know, Supreme Court justices in Pennsylvania serve for 10-year terms. And every 10 years, Pennsylvanians like myself get to vote yes or no on allowing you to have 10 more years. And I'm very excited to vote yes for all of you this November 4th. But this leads me to my first question. So in Pennsylvania, we currently have a 5-2 Democratic majority on the state Supreme Court, which the three of you helped to form. And for the last decade, that majority has protected reproductive rights, voting rights, environmental rights, ensured fair funding of public schools in Pennsylvania, and prevented partisan gerrymandering, similar to what's happening in Texas. So if you are all not retained, is Pennsylvania at risk of losing that? So Justice Wecht, this is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Pennsylvania would be at risk of losing these rights because these are rights that the three of us have vindicated along with colleagues under our Constitution. And because the Constitution is interpreted by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, if the composition of the Supreme Court changes and the precedents that the three of us have helped to establish are no longer respected, those rights could be taken away. And so they are on the line, yes.
If the three of you aren't retained, the state Supreme Court will become a split court, 2 Democratic justices, 2 Republican justices starting in 2026 and last until 2028. Now, the midterms are coming up next year. Governor Josh Shapiro is up for re-election next year. What would happen if there are any contested races that make their way to the state Supreme Court? Justice Donohue, this is for you.
Well, there'd be not a full contingent of the Supreme Court. The likelihood or the strong possibility of 2-2 ties results under that scenario. And so without a definitive decision from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, it's really questionable what's going to actually occur across the Commonwealth with election decisions, because the beauty of having our court in place fully functioning is that when we rule on any one of those cases, it binds the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it's really disastrous to have that vacuum on the Supreme Court during any election year, because I think our experience proves from 2020 up to and including this past primary that there are dozens of election disputes on how ballots are counted.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them reach us, but the ones that actually make a difference do. And it's really chaotic under all circumstances not to have a fully functioning Supreme Court. But during an election year, could be disastrous, really.
Right.
If I might just add, it's not only Josh Shapiro's election. There are the elections in all of our congressional districts.
Right, yeah.
Hotly contested, and mail-in ballots will be cast. And if history is any indication, there will be challenges.
What's something that people might be surprised to know about being a PA Supreme Court justice? So Justice Dougherty, we'll start with you. What do not many people know?
I would say people don't realize how time-consuming this position entails. with regard, I think people have this impression that we just sit on the bench and there's no preparation beforehand. And I think when you realize the breadth of the type of matters that are before us and the administrative responsibilities that we have, that it's quite an awesome task.
As an anesthesiologist, I totally can commiserate with you because everyone just assumes we're checking the stocks and weather in Florida when we're actually keeping people alive during surgery. So I totally understand.
And it's interesting, Doc, because we sit 6 times a year, twice in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Harrisburg. And I think at least I've been approached by people who think that's exactly what we do.
Justice Wecht, anything to add?
My father used to tell me, and he was a forensic pathologist. He always said, before I got a surgical procedure, he said, the most important person is not the surgeon, it's the anesthesiologist, because the anesthesiologists take you out of this world and they're the ones who have to bring you back.
That's right. There's a famous quote. I don't know who said it, but a good surgeon deserves a good anesthesiologist. A bad surgeon requires one.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Do you mind if I add one other
Sure.
point?
Yes.
Because this always amazes me. The public seems to think that any Supreme Court justice has a whole lot of power, that we are individually very powerful people. Nothing could be further from the truth, because the fact of the matter is, for anything to happen, it takes at least 3 of us on the Supreme Court to agree with what one of us says. It gets us back to this point of how really critical it is to have a fully functioning Supreme Court, because one justice does not a ruling make. So, and I think people get really confused about what kind of power we actually have.
We're going to play my favorite game that I play with judicial candidates, and it's called Am I Lying? Now, there are 3 of you, so there's not going to be a tie. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of things about myself, and you're all going to decide if I'm lying or not. Okay, so the first thing is I have moved 6 times in my life. Am I lying, or is that true?
I'll say true.
True?
I'll say true.
That is true. I have. So I'm a physician, and I have traveled a lot for my training all over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Albany, New York, back down to PA. So it was a labor of love. But yes, that is true. So you got the first one right. All right, here's the second one. I have never been in a car accident. Is that true or is that false?
False.
I would say false. I would
False?
hope
I would
it's
say true. I would say true.
You would say true? That is false. I have been in a car accident. One involved a mailbox, and the other involved a car parked in a garage. So very good.
That doesn't count. Neither one of them.
Those almost don't qualify.
I was right.
I mean,
I think Justice Donohue might appeal that. She might appeal
Absolutely. That's not an accident. That's not a car accident.
Okay, fine. In appeals, you may win, Justice Donohue, but technically, I did wreck my car in both circumstances. All right, here's the third one. I love the smell of burning rubber. Is that true or is that false?
True.
I'll say false.
Okay, we have one true. What about you, Justice Donohue?
I say true.
That is false. I cannot stand the smell of burning rubber. Gasoline, now, that I enjoy. I mean, who doesn't love pumping their gas, right? That says it, but burning rubber, can't stand it. All right. There's 2 more. I once successfully hunted and brought home a 12-point buck. True or false?
True.
False.
True.
False.
False. That is false. I'm not a hunter.
Jeez.
Can't do it. So there you go. And the last one is I do not enjoy anything that tastes like coffee. Is that true or false?
False.
I'll say false. You're a doctor.
That is true. I cannot stand. I know.
How did you get through a residency?
I think I have a very high resting cortisol level is all I can say. But yeah, I just do not enjoy coffee. I love tea. But I have to say, Judge Brandon Newman still holds the record.
Well, I got 4 out of 5 wrong, so now I hold the record.
It's okay.
However, I'm appealing the first answer.
That's fine. You can appeal the first one. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Well, the court receives about 3,000 requests per year to take a case, but you only accept between 5 to 8% of them. So what process goes into accepting a case? Justice Dougherty, this is for you.
Each of us, as you indicated, each of us probably get about 300 requests a year for us to take their case, which requires us to obtain their previous court hearings and review them. We assign it to a clerk who assists us, but then we have to make a decision whether there's discrete legal issue that is something that has an impact not only on the litigants, but possibly could affect 13 million Pennsylvanians. We then will write what we call Dear Justice letter to each other, requesting us to accept it or to deny it. And that has to be read by the 6 other colleagues. They, in turn, will decide whether they agree, or they will write a letter called a counter, obviously. And then we need at least 2 others to join us for it to be an issue before this court. But what goes into it, I think, with our court is that we have been extremely attentive to issues that affect the everyday Pennsylvanians, as opposed to historically what our court would take.
It sounds like you're all very mindful about how people in the Commonwealth are living their everyday lives and how your rulings can make their lives better.
Absolutely.
I think when you realize that the 3 of us were actual practitioners of the law, we understand what our duty and responsibility as a Supreme is. We know that the decisions we make may be beautiful in theory, but could have hazardous effects when you're trying to practice that decision we make. And I think that has caused us to be very attuned to the need of what most Pennsylvanians are aware of or need, if that makes sense to you.
Makes sense to me. What do each of you like to do for fun in your spare time? What are some of your hobbies? So Justice Donohue, we'll start with you.
I forget. I think about that for a minute. It's been so long since I've had any spare time.
Okay.
Having 2 full jobs right now, dealing with the retention election and the full-time job as a justice. When I have spare time, a couple of things. I mean, if I have a lot of time, my real passion is to travel.
Okay.
And I have dear friends who enjoy traveling as much as I do. I love to travel in Europe. I love to travel in the United States. And so this year I'm sort of, missing that opportunity. I try to sneak in one of the other things that I really enjoy doing. I have this really neat old house in the city of Pittsburgh, and I get great pleasure every season to decorate it to look like it's a season. So in any ordinary year, I might be looking forward to how many pumpkins I could put outside and things of that nature.
And Doc, if I could jump on, I've actually seen the decorations that Justice Donohue does, and I'm telling you, it's magnificent. It should be on a magazine. It's always interesting, absolutely. And the house is amazing. The detail that Justice Donohue puts in, particularly in her Halloween, is amazing. Truly, it should be on a magazine.
It's our imitating life, right? All the detail you put into your rulings, you put that into your house in Pittsburgh. It makes sense.
Just about, yes. If we're particular in one area, we're particular in another. That would be true.
I love it. Justice Wecht, what about you? What do you do in your spare time?
My wife and I have 4 kids in their 20s, and we love to travel with them. We pick a couple destinations a year, and all of us meet up in one of those places. We love the beach, but we also love places around the world. And now 3 out of 4 have significant others, so we add them in, and it's a lot of fun to be together. I also love reading. I read history and biography every day, and I love fitness activities, try to do that every single day. And I also like taking long walks with podcasts. There's so many wonderful podcasts. I like going into the woods and taking a long walk, listening to those.
Great. Well, I hope you've added the Zekely podcast to your...
I will now,
library.
yeah.
Excellent. Justice Dougherty, what about you?
I guess I'm a combination of both. I, too, have children. I have 2 children who have significant others. On my free time, I'd like to spend time with my wife and my family, and I'm more of a homebody. And in my next life, I want to be Justice David Wecht and take walks in the forest and listen to podcasts.
That's great.
Come join me in this life, Kevin.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you all find time to do something for yourselves and with your family. It's important. All right, well, we're going to play another game called We Listen and We Don't Judge. Okay, so I'll give you an example. And when I tell you, you're all collectively going to say, we listen and we don't judge. Okay, this is the one time where you can't judge me. All right, and I'm not going to judge you. So sometimes when I make my wife a sundae, after the kids go to sleep, if it has cookie dough in it, sometimes I pick the cookie dough out as like an ice cream tax. Okay, now you'll have to say, we listen and we don't judge. Okay, thank you.
Do you eat that cookie dough?
Of course I do. I mean, I pick it out and I eat the cookie dough. It's for me. It's
No,
the
he throws it away.
yeah, it's the ice cream tax. Okay.
So
what
no
about
one
you?
else could have it.
That's right. All right, Justice Dougherty. What about you?
Well, interestingly, what I do that has people have made fun of is I was raised with the mother who taught you how to be independent, and I iron everything.
Okay.
And it's interestingly that my son, even as a young kid, his friends used to make fun of me because I would iron their bathing suits before they would go to a park. And shockingly now, as much as my children fought back, I hear from their significant others that they don't do wrinkles.
Okay, all at the same time.
Well, they weren't wearing the swimsuits at the time, were they?
Oh my gosh. We listen.
I have
and,
ironed my son's tie when he had it on, yes. When he
That's
Well,
lived
we
there.
listen, but we
and
don't,
we don't judge. Very good. Very good. All right, Justice Wecht, what about you?
I compulsively turn out lights. So no matter how many times my wife and kids and others have told me I'm in here, leave the light on. It's just a habit I have from childhood. I turn out the lights on people routinely, leaving them in the dark.
Ready? We listen
listen,
and we
but we
don't
don't
judge. All right, Justice Donohue, what do you have?
Okay, first I have to say this is not what I'm going to use as my terrible example of myself, but I own 3 irons and a steamer.
It's fine. It's okay.
I put that aside for a moment. So I cannot carry a tune at all. I
right.
cannot sing happy birthday. As a matter of fact, when my family hears like Christmas carols playing in the background, they say to each other, watch out, she's going to try to sing. So that's how much I can't sing. So what that causes me to do is I pretend to sing the national anthem when I'm in a public forum so that nobody thinks that I'm being disrespectful. I move my lips, but no words ever come out.
It's okay. Everyone, we listen and we don't judge. Thank you so much for playing that game with me. That was wonderful. So when the state Supreme Court rules on a case, that ruling sets a precedent for the entire state and influences lower rulings in other courts. But if the 3 of you aren't retained, how does that 4-person court affect precedent for Pennsylvania?
If there's not complete unanimity by the remaining 4, there is no precedent. And it would be quite rare for the 4 to be unanimous because the 7 of us are rarely unanimous. And that's not surprising if you think about it, because bearing in mind that we pick the cases to hear, we're not picking cases that are slam dunk cases. We're picking cases that are cases upon which reasonable people can disagree. And they're also really important cases on the cutting edge of law and technology, cases involving constitutional issues, cases involving issues of emerging statewide importance. And if you have a court of 4 members, you're going to have gridlock. You're going to have enormous frustration among Pennsylvanians, among lawyers and the clients they represent, among all sectors of society, because they're not getting a decision. They don't know the rules of the road. Even if they don't like the result, at least they have clarity and predictability. If they don't have that, they have 2 years of limbo, and that's what would happen. If it's a 2-2 tie, then you'll have a default affirmance of the lower court with no precedent. If it's 3-1, you'll have a result, but you'll have no precedent. So, essentially you have gridlock and stalemate. And again, that's something nobody should want.
We cannot have that kind of gridlock in the Commonwealth, so we must vote yes to retain all of you this November 4th.
Thank you.
How are the relationships between the 7 of you on the court? We'll start with you, Justice Wecht.
They're great. And I think all of us know that we know the sad history in the not too distant past of what happened on our court when people let personalities and acrimony take precedence over the work that the people have selected us to do. And I think all 7 of us are always mindful that we have a job to do, and that's deciding cases for the people of Pennsylvania who elected us under the Constitution and laws, and not getting distracted with nonsense. And it's crazy to think that that did happen in the past, but it did. And so we don't fight about turf. We don't fight about patronage. We don't fight about judicial politics. We do our job. We get along, and we have an amicable collegial court, and we respect each other. And I think treating everybody as you'd like to be treated is the key.
Yeah, if I could add in there, our current Chief Justice, actually it goes back to Chief Justice Tom Saylor. After we were elected, they brought back what we call our Monday night dinners, in which we all meet the evening before we sit. And the only rule is that no one will discuss the cases or the law. It's all about catching up on our personal lives and our families. And I have to tell you, it's very interesting. And the one thing I've been saying on this campaign trail is what you often hear is they'll say, oh, a 5-2 court or a Democratic court. I can tell you the 7 of us only refer to each other as either colleagues or friends.
Justice Donohue, anything to echo?
No, I really have to agree. I mean, honestly, I really like all of my colleagues. We all sort of got here in the same way. We're sort of campaign tested, and we all have an appreciation of the fact that, we came up through the same system. And frankly, I think it's been sort of amazing. They're friendships that with people who you otherwise may not have a whole lot in common with. But getting to be a Supreme Court justice and going through that experience is really sort of a lasting bond.
Mm-hmm. You all have something that not many other people ever experience, and that has to be an amazing bond that you all have.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, some people say that interpreting the law shouldn't be a partisan issue, but history has shown us time and time again that political ideologies do influence decisions in the judicial system. So you are all being endorsed by the Democratic Party. How does being a Democrat influence your interpretations of the law? So Justice Donohue, I'll start with you.
I don't think it's being a Democrat when I was elected that has any real impact on my interpretation of the law. I share some ideologies that are consistent with what some, but not all, Democrats hold. I think there are ideologies that probably drive most of us that generate from something other than politics.
Mhm.
It comes from how we were raised, what our backgrounds were. I come from a working class family. My dad was a coal miner. My mom was a seamstress in a dress factory. You know what? They were Republicans. But what drives my ideology stems from that experience I had growing up in that kind of household.
What about you, Justice Wecht?
When I first ran for office, I won both the Democratic and Republican nominations in the primary and won on both tickets in the fall. As far as I'm concerned, there's no Democratic or Republican result to any case, as my colleague suggested, although the media don't give it any attention. If they were to try to chart our decisions, they would see there's absolutely no paradigm where all the Democratic justices are over here and all the Republican justices are over there.
And what about you, Justice Dougherty?
I have to agree with Justice Donohue and Wecht. It's based upon our upbringing. When you grow up the way we did, you're bringing those values. At the end of the day, I think the general proposition is that we try to do good because we know our decisions are going to affect 13 million people.
Right.
And it's often sad that our decisions are tarnished by a resort to partisan politics when it's really our application of the facts to the law. And as Justice Wecht said, we have 10 years of jurisprudence to determine whether they think we're partisan hacks. It's just nonsense.
I like what all of you said, and I just want to circle back to what Justice Donohue said about ideologies and values. I'm a doctor. I took an oath to do no harm, and I don't care who you are that comes in front of me. I will treat you with respect and dignity. And I believe that we should give health care to anyone who comes, into the hospital system. I believe in reproductive rights. I believe that the people that we elect into office and the judges we have on the courts have large influences over those values and ideologies. And I am very grateful that the Democratic Party is supporting all of you and is endorsing you, because I know that those values will be carried through to the courts. So I'm very grateful that all of you carry the same values that I have. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My next question is, what's been the toughest part of being a judge? Justice Donohue.
The toughest job about being a judge is sort of akin to what we've been talking about just now. You know, we do take an oath, a very solemn oath when we became Supreme Court justices, and that is our focus is solely exclusively on upholding, protecting the law, the Constitution, and the Constitution of Pennsylvania. What that makes you do is constantly focus on the fact that your personal preferences make no difference, none whatsoever. That's one of the reasons that holding the office of judge for a long period of time is important, because the longer you do this, the better you are at appreciating the actual role that you play in our system of government. That's why we have retentions as opposed to duking it out every 10 years. We have retentions because the default is to keep the stability of the court in place. And that's because it takes a while to understand how important it is to retain that barrier, and it becomes second nature at some point in time.
What about you, Justice Wecht?
Yeah, I would agree that it's an important thing from my perspective to be resigned to, is that sometimes the law leads one to a result which might not be one's preference if one was making the law, but we're not the lawmakers. The legislators are. So I don't find that really tough anymore. And I think that the toughest day that I have is still easier than the easiest day a lot of working people have, frankly.
Would you agree, Justice Dougherty?
Wholeheartedly. I'd have to piggyback off what both of my friends said. I've been sitting as a judge for 25 years now. I would like to believe that during that time, I have matured in my position. But when you look at the experience of the three of us and the years in the law, I'd like to believe that the Commonwealth is better off with us than without us.
Judges are incredibly common in popular culture. We've got America's Got Talent, So You Think You Can Dance, Top Chef, so on. I would like to know, are there any shows that you'd love to be a judge on? Justice Donohue.
Sure. I mean, it's obvious. I would like to be a judge on The Voice. I'd like to say, she can't sing either, or she thinks she can sing. So anyway, that's where I would like to be a judge.
Okay. All right. Not a house decorating show or anything like that?
No. I know how to house decorate. I don't know how to sing.
All right. Excellent. What about you, Justice Wecht? What would you want to be on?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I'd want to be on a reality show, but I would like to have a couple appearances on one of those crime law dramas where you have a judge sitting there. And because we watch those shows, and normally, at least for me, I want to jump through the screen and say, no, you can't do that. But I remember an older colleague on Common Pleas, after he retired and moved to LA where his daughter lived, he actually got some gigs playing a judge on some of those shows. Now, he had a flowing white mane of hair, Justice Donohue knows who I'm talking about. And so I had coffee with him a couple times, like when he visited Pittsburgh after that. And I told him I was kind of envious. I thought that was pretty cool. I would definitely do that for free.
That's awesome. All right. I like that. What about you, Justice Dougherty?
Not that I watch TV that often, but probably would be on that show, America's Got Talent, because I find it absolutely amazing what people are willing to do and attempt to do on TV for attention. But some of it is truly masterful.
Yeah. I would love to see you give someone the golden buzzer someday, Justice Dougherty. That would be amazing. All right. My next question is, and this may be hard for you all to collectively agree, but I'd like a quorum on this. What's a ruling you're all most proud of? What do you think? Justice Wecht, do you think you can guess what your other two colleagues are thinking?
I'm sure we have many, and the three of us have all been talking about several of these cases. Certainly one that I know that we're all proud of is striking down the flamboyantly gerrymandered U.S. House districts, which disenfranchised millions of Pennsylvanians and relegated some to second-class citizenship because they were deprived of the power of their vote. And I think that, we took and we continue to take a lot of grief from entrenched, privileged interests that thought they were entitled to more power than other citizens in this state. And the fact that we vindicated the right in Pennsylvania's Constitution to free and equal elections for everybody, I think is really meaningful. And I think it's something that we all can be proud of, and I think we all are very proud of.
Yeah. There are a lot of mailers going around, false mailers, trying to put out erroneous information about the districts that you all collectively put down and made the districts fairer in Pennsylvania so that everyone would have an equal vote. And so
It's not only misleading. It's like there's a mailer out there that it's night is day, in is out, black is white. It shows the gerrymandered map that we struck down,
right.
and this mailer comes out, no doubt, from some of the same people who were behind that gerrymandered map, and it suggests that we made that map. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's just shameless, and we have some of the fairest maps in the entire country. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Well, this is for you, Justice Donohue. Do you believe the legal system in America is strong enough to protect democracy?
I don't know. I hope so. I know that the legal system in Pennsylvania is strong enough to protect democracy in Pennsylvania.
So long as you all sit on the court. So long as you all sit on the court.
That is exactly right. I mean, I have utmost confidence in our staunch adherence to the Pennsylvania Constitution, which we have the exclusive authority to interpret. The United States Supreme Court can't mess around with our Pennsylvania Constitution. And so I have confidence in the continued progress of democracy in Pennsylvania. And of course, that's all we can control, isn't it?
That is
all we
very
can
true.
control.
That's right. This election November 4th is all about Pennsylvania.
Yes, that's what it's all about. We can control in Pennsylvania what happens with democracy in Pennsylvania. And so I have confidence that will occur.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope, I would say, is that we are trying to do the best with the time that we're given. And in that time, I always say, we realize we sit in a borrowed chair. You know, I talk about some of the arguments against us. People are mentioning this concept of term limits. There is no concern about term limits. The retention is a term limit. We have 10 years, and then we must stand before Pennsylvanians to be judged by the citizens. So with that time that we're given, it is at least my belief, that we will do the best we can and that the best is yet to come. We've learned, and we are constantly building upon our foundation that we've laid the last 10 years. And there's a lot of things that we still have to do.
Justice Wecht, what gives you hope?
I'd say two things. One is the young people that I interact with, both on the campaign trail and in those I teach, their intellectual curiosity. I am constantly reminded not to become a cynic, because there are many young people who do have a thirst for learning and do have a thirst for civics education. So that's number one. And number two, wonderful, resilient constitutions. If it weren't for the Constitution of Pennsylvania and the Constitution of the United States, I don't know where we'd be. In our vast republic here in the United States, we don't share one race, one ethnicity, one language. So what do we share? We share our Constitution. And thank God for that. Thank God we have a Constitution. It has helped us endure for 238 years, and hopefully will continue to help us endure long after that into the future.
And Justice Donohue, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope are conversations like we are having, which echoes the kinds of conversations that I've been able to have with Pennsylvanians as I've been talking about the importance of retaining Kevin and David and I on this court. People are engaged. People do want to do the right thing. They do want to understand what we do, what retention means. They do understand that they can make a difference in our government here in Pennsylvania. And that really is the essence of being an American. And certainly in our context, it's certainly the essence of being a Pennsylvanian who has the right to choose whether or not we continue to serve. And in the first instance, had the right to decide that we sit on this court in the first place. I like our system. I like the way that we select judges in Pennsylvania. A, it gives me the opportunity to get the hope that I now have.
Yeah.
And B, it makes me appreciate how important it is for me to engage when I can at this level with citizens across Pennsylvania. So that gives me hope. It gives me hope that we have an election on November 4th.
Mm-hmm. Well, you all give me hope. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. My last question for each of you is, what plans do you have to get yourself through these next few years? Justice Wecht, we'll start with you.
Coffee. A lot of coffee.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Coffee, exercise, intellectual exchanges with colleagues, my fellow justices, my law clerks, reading. I know I may be smarter than I was yesterday, but I'm not as smart as I'll be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping an open mind, being willing to be proven wrong, and soldiering forward.
Justice Dougherty, what about you?
It's not that it's a difficult question. I would just say that you just have to keep on marching and hope for the best. It goes back to that concept of hope. I have to believe throughout history there have been times in our country's short life that people have been confronted with a threat. And I have to believe that this is just a moment in time and that we will get better. And it will get better. And people will ultimately realize that, at the end, good always beats evil.
That's right. You have to have hope. You have to keep going. What about you, Justice Donohue?
I don't look at getting through the next few years as a challenge. Part of the reason is that I'm hoping very strongly to still be a justice on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And let me just tell you something, Doctor. This is the best gig in the world. I thoroughly enjoy every aspect of this job, from the research and the writing, and maybe even most of all, the oral arguments that we get from lawyers. And so getting through this next few years to me will be a pleasant experience, assuming, again, as I hope I can, that the citizens will allow me to continue to serve.
I will be one of them, trying to get you across the finish line.
Thank you.
Well, if you haven't realized it by now, at this point in the podcast, there's a really big election coming up this November 4th. And Justice Dougherty, Donohue, and Wecht are all standing for retention for the PA Supreme Court. It's a yes or no vote, and we must all vote yes. If you go to the ZekelyPodcast.com, I have links for each of the justices. You can go to their websites and contribute to get the word out. And like I always say, every election is the most important election, and I am just so grateful that all of you came on here. I cannot wait to vote yes for each of you this November 4th.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me here on the Zekely Podcast. Stay hopeful and get involved. And until next time, let's keep building a stronger Pennsylvania together.